Hello, welcome to Strong Sense of Place.
In each episode, we focus on one destination and discuss what makes it different than any other place on Earth.
Then we recommend 5 books we love that took us there on the page.
I'm Melissa Joelwan.
I'm David Humphreys.
We're going around the world, one great read at a time.
Thanks for joining us. Welcome to Strong Sense of Place. Today we get curious about Halloween. In Two Truths and a Lie, we'll talk about one of the largest nighttime gatherings in the world and the mischievous mind behind it all. And then we'll talk about 5 books we love.
I'm recommending A Cozy Witch Story with a friendly spider and homemade blackberry pie.
Well, that sounds nice.
It's pretty nice.
I read 2 books about women dealing with loss, and the books couldn't be more different. One mixes horror with a deadpan sense of humor, and the other takes us through the shadows of the subway and mixes in some ancient Asian ghost rituals. But before we get to any of that, Mel is going to bring us up to speed with the Halloween 101.
Today, I thought it would be fun to talk about 3 fantastic places to celebrate Halloween in real life. As always, it was pretty challenging to narrow it down to just 3 picks.
Yeah.
For example, if you wanted to go to the biggest Halloween street party in Europe, you could visit Londonderry, Ireland. Their Halloween festival is called Awakening the Walled City.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. It has street performers and a light show and a parade. Or you could bop over to Edinburgh, Scotland instead. They celebrate the Samhain Fire Festival on the Royal Mile. That's the cobbled street that leads to Edinburgh Castle. The Fire Festival is their modern twist on an old Celtic festival that includes fire play, drumming, and a dramatic standoff between the summer and winter kings.
How did I not know about that?
I don't know. It seems like we should have been to it by now.
Yeah.
And of course, you could head to Salem, Massachusetts to party with the witches. They have many varieties of witch walking tours, drag karaoke, spiritualism tours, a ghost story trolley ride through town, and an epic parade.
Just before we moved to the United States, we spent a couple of days in Salem.
We did. It seemed very fitting somehow. Obviously, I'm ready to sign up for all of those places.
Yeah.
But for our imaginary Halloween itinerary this year, I chose devilish destinations in Eastern Europe, the United States, and the UK.
Okay.
Pack some salt and garlic in your carry-on. Our first stop is Transylvania, Romania. Transylvania looks like a vintage postcard. It's very bucolic. Rolling green hills, medieval villages with orange tile roofs, old Saxon forts, and Gothic castles. The name Transylvania means land beyond the forest, and the Carpathian Mountains that border it are some of the last virgin forests in Europe. Look out for werewolves and vampires and witches.
It's really beautiful countryside, and it's kind of a shame that it is now steeped in this whole monster world.
Is it a shame or is it an added feature? So, as you've alluded to, among the many oaks and silver firs in that forest, you'll find lots of brown bears.
Yeah.
You can actually go to a sanctuary and see the brown bears. But you also find Vlad Tepes, a.k.a. Vlad the Impaler, the real-life Wallachian prince who may have inspired the legend of Dracula.
Right.
Transylvania is an awesome place to eat things like cheese and sausages and sauerkraut and drink local wine. You can go hiking in the hills. You can go visit a salt mine. You can stay on a working farm. But in October, The locals really lean into their connection to vampire folklore. The medieval town of Sigishwara has narrow cobblestone lanes, and the houses are painted in pastel ice cream colors. Looming over the main square in town is a spiky Gothic clock tower that dates back to the 1300s, which means it was already there when Vlad Tepes drew his first breath in a stone house just a few streets away.
Wow.
On Halloween night, you can attend the Great Dracula Ball in the Sigishwara Citadel.
What is that?
It's a costume ball that begins at 7 p.m. when each guest is announced by Lord Stewart. After the promenade, there's a gourmet dinner, a ballet called Vampiressa Hunting, and an immersive show that reenacts the staking of a vampire.
Wow. And this is open to the public?
Yeah.
Wow.
You can buy tickets right now.
Huh.
There's dancing until 2 a.m. And at the end, whoever's still there is invited to take the survivor's oath.
Well, that's great.
Or you could go to the walled city of Brashov and nearby Bran Castle. That's a Gothic pile with cone-top turrets and asymmetrical towers perched on a hill surrounded by dense forest. In the photos, there's lots of fog around it. It looks exactly like what you think Dracula's castle would look like. On October 30th, Bran Castle is hosting Dracula's Vampire Ball. Only 100 souls will be admitted to the castle after hours, along with a coven of Romanian witches. The evening of dinner, dancing, and storytelling is hosted by Bram Stoker's great-grandnephew, Dacre, who is a Dracula historian.
Of course he is.
That one also goes late into the night. And although you can't stay overnight at the castle, there's a luxurious chalet that's just a 4-minute walk away, if you're not too scared to walk along a moonlit road.
Midnight of Halloween from Dracula's castle.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's all I have to say about that.
Great.
Our next stop is on the other side of the ocean in the Hudson Valley in New York, the village of Sleepy Hollow.
Oh, sure.
You probably know it as the setting for Washington Irving's tale of Ichabod Crane and the Headless Horseman in The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Washington Irving was born in New York City in 1783. When he was a teenager, there was a yellow fever outbreak in Manhattan, so he went to stay with friends in Tarrytown, which is close by to Sleepy Hollow. He just fell in love with the place. He loved the green farmland, he was particularly taken with the local ghost stories, and a few years later, when he became a writer, he used that area as the setting for Rip Van Winkle and The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. When he was 52, he bought a little Gothic revival cottage there and he named it Sunnyside. And today it's a museum. During spooky season, you can take a special Halloween tour. As you might expect, Sleepy Hollow has lots of spine-chilling events all year long, but they really pull out the stops at Halloween.
Sure.
There's the Great Jack-o'-lantern Blaze.
What is that?
It's a display of 7,000 illuminated jack-o'-lanterns, all carved by hand by local artists.
Oh, that's cool.
They're arranged in displays and tableaus and tunnels you can walk through. There's a pumpkin planetarium. They have a bonfire. There's a circus ghost train. And of course, the Headless Horseman wanders the grounds.
So kind of like one of those Christmas lights displays, except it's pumpkins instead of Christmas lights.
It's flaming pumpkins. The 18th century Phillipsburg Manor House has a walking tour called The Headless Horseman Files. It's a live-action whodunit with actors playing characters from the story, including Katrina Van Tassel and Brom Bones. Guests have to put together clues to figure out what really happened to Ichabod Crane.
Huh.
There's also a storytelling night with an actor playing Edgar Allan Poe that starts at the library and ends in a theater with cocktails and chocolates. Finally, the Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, where Washington Irving is buried, gives tours all year long, including a 2-hour nighttime lantern tour.
So you wander around the cemetery holding a lantern in front of you?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that sounds fun.
And visit the graves and hear scary stories. This year for Halloween, they also have a murder mystery night that takes place in the cemetery and a storyteller performing the strange case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
That sounds great.
The final stop on our ghostly tour is the most haunted city in Europe, York, England. York has been around for almost 2,000 years, which is a lot of time for people to leave their spiritual mark on a place. It was founded by the Romans in 71 AD and then conquered by the Vikings about 1,000 years or so later. And then in medieval times, it became a religious center and major trading hub. You can still walk along the old Roman city walls and visit very forbidding Gothic stone buildings like the York Minster Cathedral, York Castle, and relevant to our interests, the narrow streets called the Shambles. The Shambles dates back to the 14th century. It's a higgledy-piggledy neighborhood with narrow lanes. The buildings are timber-framed all along the alleys, and they look like they were pulled straight out of the pages of Grimm's fairy tales. And it kind of feels when you're walking down the street like they're hunching over you and the alley's getting narrower and narrower as you walk down it. Back in the day, the Shambles was home to many butchers, and the name the Shambles comes from Old English for flesh shelves.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Kind of spooky from the beginning.
Yeah.
Today, the old butcher shops have been replaced with gift shops and bookstores and cafes.
Yeah, it is much more tourist friendly than it used to be.
Yes, it is. Which brings us to the York Ghost Merchants.
Yeah.
Located at number 6 on the Shambles, the York Ghost Merchants are purveyors of fine handmade ceramic ghosts. They are, in fact, the only ghost merchants still trading in the 21st century. The shop was built in 1780, and it's lined with oak-paneled walls and whimsical shelves that display hundreds of ghosts.
We went there.
We did.
And we got ghosts.
We did.
They're watching us right now.
They are.
They are ceramic ghosts. They'll fit in the palm of your hand. They're pretty good size, but they'll fit in the palm of your hand. And they are all alike, all the ghosts, very sort of what you think of if you were going to draw a ghost. They look like that.
Smooth on the top, little jaggy on the bottom, the edge of the sheet.
Yep. But they all have their own finish. So you can get white ghosts, you can get purple ghosts, you can get green ghosts.
Some of them look like they're made of marble.
Yep.
They make limited edition ones that have special secret surprises sometimes. They made one that had an antique coin stuck in the bottom.
Yeah. Some of them are polka dots. And you walk into the store, of course, and they're all there. They're all looking at you. They also sell a shorter one that looks like a baby to the larger one. And it's very charming. It's really nice. And as you've mentioned, they've decorated the store just so. It's got a very kind of Victorian leaning, creepy, but friendly vibe to it.
It almost looks like a little theater where you would go to see like a Penny Dreadful style play.
Yeah.
And everyone who works there is very much in the spirit.
Yes.
They are bought into the conceit that they are purveyors of ghosts. And it's super fun.
Yep. And they dress up as well. They've got a sort of Victorian leaning outfit, each of them a little different from each other. I really enjoyed our time in York, and that was a big part of it.
In October, the Ghost Merchants host York Ghost Week, which is a citywide celebration of history and friendly ghosts with dozens of events. There's no way I could talk about all of the cool things they're doing this year. In October, the Ghost Merchants host York Ghost Week, a citywide celebration of history and friendly ghouls with dozens of events. There's an evening scavenger hunt for ghosts that they've hidden in the streets around York Minster Cathedral.
Oh, that's fun. So they take their little ghosts and they put them out on the street?
They do. Like multiple nights during Ghost Week. There's a Charles Dickens ghost story night at the York Medical Society, which looks exactly like you expect a Victorian medical society to look. But my favorite might be the quest for a handmade guild coin. Back in the 15th century, York was home to 96 craft guilds,
Wow.
including bakers, brewers, shoemakers, goldsmiths, glovers, and scriveners. Today, there are only 7 guilds left, and they mostly operate as charities and historical societies. To honor the guilds, brass plaques are located around town, and during Ghost Week, you can buy a special wallet that includes a map, rubbing paper, and a pencil. You collect 5 plaque rubbings, and you can turn that in to buy a special guild coin that the ghost merchants have made.
That's a really nice way to keep that tradition alive.
It seems like a really fun activity to do with friends, too.
Yeah.
Also near the shambles is Ghosts in the Garden. It's a free art trail that features 58 translucent wire mesh sculptures of ghostly figures.
What kind of ghostly figures?
There are ladies in long dresses and veils, horsemen in Regency's soldiers' uniforms, and a horse, a Victorian child playing the violin, and a cat drinking from a pond.
These are all life-size?
Yes.
That's amazing.
And during the day, they kind of look like they're made of smoke. Because they're translucent and they're this thin wire, they just seem to be kind of like floating in among the trees and the flowers. And then at night, they light them up and they look like glowing apparitions.
Will we have video of this?
We do have video that I'll put in show notes. So those are my 3 picks for Halloween this year.
Excellent picks.
Thank you. If you can't physically get to Transylvania, Sleepy Hollow, and York this year, I have a ton of books that I will list in show notes so that you can visit there on the page. And to close out today, I want to share a short poem. The York Ghost Merchants have ghostly short stories and poems on their site, and this poem was one of the winners of their poetry contest.
There's a poetry contest.
There is a poetry contest. I love everything they do. Like, that is my dream job.
Yeah.
To wear the costume, to sell people ghosts, and to host things like a poetry contest. This poem is called Amongst Us, and it's by Gemma Richards. Once upon a winter's night, with clouded veil by candlelight, betwixt the realms of shadow and light, bewilderedly they stray. Bereft of hope, befogged, forlorn, devoid of kinship lost, they mourn. Forgotten love, devotion sworn, tethered, bound to stay. Foretold by tales from times of yore, our mortal plane they do explore. Yet no harm to you, they do implore. Take comfort, please, they pray.
Oh, that's nice.
That's the Halloween 101.
Are you ready for 2 truths and a lie?
I'm very excited for 2 truths and a lie.
Let's do it. So I'm about to say 3 statements. 2 of these are true. Mel doesn't know which one is the lie. Statement number 1. In Colorado, they have coffin races. Statement number 2. There's a folklorist in New England who's been exhuming suspected vampires for decades. He says, quote, "This is the tip of the iceberg." And 3, the largest nighttime parade in the United States was started by a self-proclaimed witch. All right, let's take these in order.
All right.
In Colorado, they have coffin races.
I'm going to say that's true.
It is true. Yeah, the story starts in the late 1880s with a young woman named Emma Crawford. She was musical, known for her skill at the piano, and she was dying of what they then called consumption and we call tuberculosis. Doctors told her what they told many patients at the time, which was to go west. The mineral springs and the high, dry air of Colorado might save her. So she left rural Massachusetts and traveled to the foot of Pikes Peak, and she settled in a very small town called Manitou Springs. But the cure never came, and in December of 1891, Emma Crawford died. She was only in her 30s. Before her death, she made a final request that she be buried on Red Mountain, which is the mountain rising just out of town. Friends and neighbors honored that, and they hauled her coffin up the slope, and they laid her to rest at the summit. But the mountain did not keep her.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. There was a railroad project that needed space on the summit, so her coffin was reburied lower on a loose, gravelly slope. Over the decades, erosion gnawed away at the hillside, and in the 20s, heavy rains and loose soil did what time does. They dislodged the coffin. Emma and her coffin came sliding down Red Mountain.
Wow.
Yeah. In August of 1929, two boys exploring the hillside found a skull. By the way, this is not the only time we'll talk about two boys finding a skull. These two boys brought it up to the authorities. Other fragments turned up as well. Emma's nameplate and a few bones and some coffin hardware.
Poor Emma.
Yeah. There was no family left to claim her and no one to ensure a dignified resting place, so what was left of Emma Crawford was gathered and reburied in an unmarked grave. And that's where the story might have ended, a lost woman and an unquiet burial. But Manitou Springs has a long memory, and Emma would eventually return, in a way, to ride down Red Mountain again. Jump to the 1990s. Manitou is still artsy and a little eccentric, and they're thinking they need an event to pull together the community. And the Chamber of Commerce leans into the Crawford story and says, what if we make that slide a ritual of remembrance? And so in 1995, Manitou launched the first Emma Crawford coffin races.
That's so cool.
And now, every October, the town throws a costume parade at noon and then lines the avenue for the main event, which is a 195-yard dash with a team of 5, 4 pushers, and 1 Emma piloting a homemade coffin. If you picture something between a traditional coffin and a bobsled with wheels, you're kind of going in the right direction.
It's kind of like a Gothic soapbox derby.
Yes, it is. It looks like that. The rules are pretty simple. 3 of the 4 pushers have to keep their hands on the coffin to the finish. The fastest time wins. There are also show trophies. So for best coffin, best Emma, best entourage. It's a little sporting event and a little bit street theater. Some teams come as undertakers with derby hats. Others as UFO crews wheeling a neon sarcophagus. There's always a few historical entries, Victorians with veils, a piano motif for Emma the musician, that kind of thing. The event has a strong Halloween vibe. The crowd is a sea of costumes, like kids with vampire teeth and retirees with steampunk goggles. And afterward, the town returns to its shops and bars, and the confetti gets swept up, and Emma, the young ghost of the piano, is remembered with laughter and applause. If you want to go...
I do.
Or race...
Ooh, yes, to all of that.
Yep. It is still doable. Registration closes October 17th, and race day is Saturday, October 25th. If you go, wear a costume. I should also mention that the coffin races have spread. Denton, Texas has a Day of the Dead festival, and Estes Park, Colorado has a Frozen Dead Guy festival that includes coffin racing. In their version, the coffin is carried through a muddy field, and judging from the footage I found online, booze might be involved. That all happens in March.
I can only hope you have links to share in the show notes for that.
I do. I've got video and everything.
Good. We can start planning our costumes for next year.
Statement number 2. There's a folklorist in New England who's been exhuming suspected vampires for decades. He says, quote, "This is the tip of the iceberg."
I'm going to guess false.
It's true.
Oh, darn it.
There's a folklorist in New England who has spent decades chasing vampires in town ledgers and family scrapbooks and church records. His name is Michael E. Bell. He's logged about 80 exhumations of graves from the late 1700s through the 1890s.
80.
Yeah. And he thinks there are hundreds more hiding in the archives.
And he thinks they're actually vampires.
He does not.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, these New England vampires are not caped aristocrats haunting the lighthouse. These were neighbors trying desperately to rescue their families from consumption, from tuberculosis. The same thing that did in Emma.
Mm-hmm.
TB is still a monster. It spreads through the air and it kind of hollows you out over months. In 2023, it killed an estimated 1.25 million people worldwide. In the 1800s, before antibiotics, it was a slow public tragedy. The weight loss and the night sweats and the blood on the handkerchief, all of that. The folk logic went something like this. If your household kept dying, somebody recently buried might be preying on the living.
Mm.
So communities dug. They opened a grave and they checked organs for freshness, and they burned the heart or the liver, and sometimes mixed the ashes with the water as a cure for the sick. Mel has got a strong no.
Yeah, I can feel him scrunching my face up really in an unpleasant way.
Yeah. The most famous case reads like a Gothic short story with Yankee overtones. In Exeter, Rhode Island, the Brown family was being undone by consumption. In January of 1892, 19-year-old Mercy Brown was exhumed after her mother and sister had died and her brother Edwin began to fail. A Providence Journal reporter was on hand as the neighbors opened the grave. They found Mercy's heart and liver unusually well preserved because she'd been kept in a cold crypt through the winter. So they burned the organs on a nearby stone. Edwin was given a potion of the ashes in water, a folk cure meant to break the vampire's hold. He died a few weeks later, but the ritual sort of fixed itself in local memory. Neighbors doing what they could in the only way they knew how. A century later, and a state away, we got another story by accident. In 1990 in Griswold, Connecticut, 2 boys were playing near a gravel mine and found a skull. Let's have a moment to think about the poor guy from the university who answered this call. He went out and he found a small family cemetery eventually. In that cemetery was a coffin that had been reopened and rearranged years after the burial. Inside, the bones had been set in a skull and crossbone pose so that the skull was set on top of crossed arms inside of this coffin. The chest showed damage where somebody had likely reached in for the heart. And on the coffin lid, brass tacks spelled JB55, which were the initials and the age of death. 30 years later, DNA tied JB55 to the local Barber family. The Connecticut vampire was almost certainly John Barber, a farmer who probably died of TB. He was not a monster. He was a man who died a tough death and then became the focus of his community's hope for a cure. Did all of this vampire searching get into Bram Stoker's imagination? It's often said that a Mercy Brown news clipping turned up among Stoker's papers.
Huh.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. But scholars point out that he'd already started writing Dracula, so the influence is plausible but unproven. For me, the folklorist Bell, like his gift is empathy. He shows that the undead in New England are mostly fears that we keep alive. Halloween gives us rubber bats and capes and such, and the real story underneath is very human. What do you do when you're terrified? And in Exeter and Griswold 100+ years ago, the answer was shovels and fire and a prayer for mercy. Which brings us to statement 3.
Which is the lie.
Yeah, the largest nighttime parade in the United States was started by a self-proclaimed witch.
It was started by a werewolf.
It was started by a puppeteer.
Oh, that might even be scarier.
I know. I know. The story starts in Vermont. A quiet kid named Ralph Lee grew up in Middlebury in the 30s and 40s. While he's growing up, he falls in love with masks and puppets, and he never quite gets over it. He carved faces, and he stitched characters, and he put on shows for the neighborhood. He grows up, and he takes that obsession to New York City, where on one particular Halloween night, It spilled into the streets and never went back inside. On Halloween 1974, Lee and a circle of his friends stepped out of his studio carrying lanterns and herding kids and guiding a procession of homemade giants towards Washington Square Park. By the next year, the procession had a name, and by the end of the decade, it needed a bigger street. And that was the beginning of the Village Halloween Parade. Lee was not a hype man. He was a theater artist who believed that a mask changes the wearer and the watcher, and the best place to practice that magic is outside. In the mid-70s, the Theater for the New City helped him scale the stroll into a real production with sound systems and street marshals and a post-parade ball. And suddenly you had giant skeletons ducking under deli awnings and a papier-mâché cat as tall as a stoplight and a devil ziplining off of the Washington Square arch. The rules were radical and simple. You show up in costume and you're in. And as New York City discovered the parade grew. The route eventually moved to 6th Avenue, where there's more room for the spectacle. Last year, there was an estimated 50,000 costume participants.
Holy cow.
Yeah, and more than 50 marching bands. Officials say that 2 million people watch along the barricades.
That sounds like so much fun.
Yeah, it's really great.
If I could get airlifted in and out, if I got a little anxious about the crowd.
Yeah. Well, you get a hotel somewhere along the route and you're good to go. Some years, the parade carries more than mischief. After 9/11, the organizers led with a giant phoenix.
Aww.
Yeah, wings pumping above a ring of lantern embers, and New Yorkers came out to keep going. The tradition has survived hurricanes and a pandemic pause and budget scares. When the parade returned in 2021, organizers called it the first major NYC event after COVID restrictions lifted. It was a small thing that felt big. People back in the street and together on purpose. The parade's side characters are perfect in New York. I saw video of dozens of Broadway performers zombie dancing to Thriller. There are drag queens with feathered wings. There's like a brass band that crashes into a drum line and somehow they both keep playing. And above the route, a giant spider descends from the Jefferson Market Library Tower. Lee went on to work in theater the rest of his life. If you remember the land shark sketch on early Saturday Night Live, you've seen his work. He made that shark.
Mrs. Baldwin.
Who is it?
Flowers.
Flowers for whom?
Plumber, ma'am.
I don't need a plumber. You're that clever shark, aren't you?
Candy Graham.
That is one of my favorite sketches ever.
Ralph Lee died in 2023, but the parade he started is very much alive. Every October, artists and neighbors pull new giants out of studios, and volunteers get quick lessons in the physics of puppets. And thousands of New Yorkers put on whatever version of themselves they've been saving for this one night. If you want to march, the rule is still simple. Come in costume and join the lineup at Canal and 6th between 6:30 and 9, and then go north with a whole unruly carnival. That's 2 truths and a lie.
If you've shopped online, it's extremely likely that you've bought from a business powered by Shopify. You know that purple Shop Pay button you see at checkout? The one that makes the process from, I think I'm ready to buy, to, I can't wait till it gets here, so incredibly easy? That's Shopify. And there's a reason so many businesses sell with it, because Shopify makes it easy to start and run your business. Shopify is the commerce platform behind 10% of all e-commerce in the US, from household names like Mattel and Gymshark to brands just getting started. It gives you a leg up from the very beginning, with hundreds of beautiful, ready-to-go templates to express your brand style, so you don't have to spend time coding a website. Shopify allows you to tackle all the important tasks in one place, from inventory to payments to analytics and more. Plus, they have built-in marketing and email tools to help find and keep new customers, so you can easily spread your brand's word. And did I mention that iconic purple Shop Pay button that's used by millions of businesses around the world? It's the reason why Shopify has the best converting checkout on the planet. Your customers already know it, love it, and actually use it. If you want to see less carts being abandoned, it's time for you to head over to Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/realm. Go to shopify.com/realm. Shopify.com/realm.
And now, 5 books we love. This is book 1.
My first recommendation is Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney.
Oh, I talked about this book.
You did on the Library of Lost Time.
Yeah.
And then I read it immediately. And that was like 3 years ago, and I still remembered everything about this book. This is a wickedly fun riff on Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None. Instead of terrible people who are strangers to each other, we get terrible people who are family, plus some additional twisty bits that are a wild ride.
Whenever we talk about this book, visions of Edward Gorey come through my head.
That is 100% accurate. Our narrator is a young woman named Daisy Darker. Her family hasn't seen each other for years, but now they're gathering to celebrate their Nana's 80th birthday. Imagine that as a basic white cake base layer.
Okay.
It's delicious, but we're going to add some sweet buttercream plot frosting. Number 1, the birthday celebration is at Sea Glass, a shabby chic Victorian mansion in Cornwall, England. 2, the house sits on a tidal island in Black Sand Bay. When the tide is high, the island is cut off from the rest of the world for 8 hours.
Nobody comes in, nobody goes out.
Number 3, Nana's birthday gathering takes place on Halloween. And number 4, when the guests arrive, Nana announces it's not just a birthday party. She's going to read them her final will and testament.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. From the outset, Daisy, our narrator, is very sympathetic. The first thing she tells us is, I was born with a broken heart. And that is literal. She goes on to explain that she had a heart condition that almost killed her and her mom, but Daisy survived against all the odds, and maybe a little bit to her family's chagrin. She goes on, the second time I died was exactly 5 years after I was born. My heart completely stopped on my 5th birthday when I demanded too much of it by trying to swim to America.
Oh, no.
I wanted to run away, but was better at swimming, so hoped to reach New York by lunchtime with a bit of backstroke. I didn't even make it out of Black Sand Bay, and technically died trying.
Oh, that's so sad.
It's really sad. She is saved on that occasion by her elder sister, Rose, but only because Rose had recently learned CPR and wanted to show off. As Daisy says, she'd earned her first aid badge at Brownies. Sometimes I suspect she regretted it. Saving me, I mean, she loved that badge. So that gives you a sense of the tone of Daisy's narration. It's really fun, but also sad. Very much like Edward Gorey's drawings.
Yeah.
The only person in Daisy's family to love her unconditionally is Nana. Beatrice Darker, that's Nana's real name, is a bit eccentric. She has a sweet tooth and owns 80 clocks, one for each year of her life, to remind herself that her time is her own.
Her name is B. Darker.
It is. So good. Nana's also the best-selling author of children's books, including her most famous work, Daisy Darker's Little Secret. That book made Nana a small fortune, and it drove a wedge between Daisy and Nana on one side and the rest of the family on the other. The author Alice Feeney does a bang-up job of introducing us to Daisy's family, her useless/abusive parents, her selfish, grasping sisters, and the one nice family member, her teenage niece Trixie. So the whole crew makes their way to Sea Glass, which is named for the blue-green bits of glass that decorate its gray stone walls and Gothic turrets. It's a very whimsical name for kind of a dark place.
Yeah.
The first family dinner, when they're all together, is as delightfully dysfunctional as you suspect and hope it will be. A storm is rolling in over the water, and there's equally dangerous thunder and lightning in the dining room. The atmosphere is claustrophobic, thick with distrust. And the house itself feels alive. Floors creak, corners emanate darkness. And just as Nana is about to share the contents of her will, a surprise guest arrives. Nana is delighted to see him, and everyone else is not. They all eventually retreat to their bedrooms, and then they're startled awake by a scream at midnight. When they go to investigate, they find Nana dead on the floor of the kitchen.
What?
And a poem has been written on the chalkboard in what looks like Nana's handwriting. This is what it says, in part. Daisy Darker's family were as dark can be. When one of them died, all of them lied and pretended not to see. Daisy Darker's Nana was the oldest, but least wise. The woman's will made them all feel ill, which was why she had to die. The poem goes on. It fills a whole page of the book. It has something cutting to say about each of the other family members, and then it ends with this. Daisy Darker's family wasted far too many years lying. They spent their final hours together learning lessons before dying.
That really does sound like somebody took a bunch of Edward Gorey memes and tossed them into a nice novel.
It does. She does a really good job with it, though. The plot is propelled forward by a ticking clock, the ones on the wall, and the movements of the ocean. Each chapter begins with the time and how many hours are left until low tide. Periodically, there are more snippets of poetry as the guests die one by one. Along the way to sorting out the identity of the killer, we get luscious backstory. The family's relationship to that late arriving guest, the history of the house, revelations of long-held secrets and betrayals. It could all be too dark, but the recurring poems have a sinister glee. And in the flashbacks, Nana is a real source of sunshine. This is a fantastic whodunit with Halloween vibes and dark whimsy. I found it impossible to put down. It's Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney.
This is book 2.
My first book is The September House from Carissa Orlando. This is a haunted house story. Unlike most haunted house stories, it starts with everything going full tilt.
Right from the jump.
Yeah, almost. There's a prologue. We meet a couple who have just found their dream house. They're an older couple, Margaret and Hal. They've just sent their daughter to college, and they're looking around a beautiful old Victorian and just falling in love with it. It's going to need a little work. And on about page 2, there's this bit. I am legally obligated to disclose to you that there was a death in this house, the agent said, still catching her breath as she caught up to us on the 3rd floor, but not so out of sorts as to accidentally use the word murder. And a couple of lines later, Margaret, the narrator, says, a house this old, you would almost expect something like that, I said, not even listening to my own words as I peered inside the closet. The closet. And then 2 pages later, they move in. And then chapter 1 starts with this line. The walls of the house were bleeding again.
That's fantastic.
and we're into it. It turns out the house has a schedule. While the house is haunted around the year, every September, the blood starts, the moaning starts, and by the month's end, you're into full-on screaming. It's hard to get a good night's sleep in September.
Oh, just in September.
Yeah.
The rest of the time, it's fine.
It's workable. And Margaret handles it with a sort of practical stubbornness of somebody who has decided, this is fine. This is workable. We can do this. She negotiates with the ghosts, who are sort of all fully members of the house. There's Frederica, who is an axe-wounded housekeeper who pours tea and occasionally stress stacks furniture. There's a little boy who likes to bite. Margaret describes dodging his fangs to get her toast like it's just one more household nuisance, like a leaky sink, ants, murderous little boy, all the same weight. There are others. Margaret calls them pranksters. And from the beginning, I was aware that Margaret might be the strangest thing in this very strange house. She's laser focused on her daily routines. She refuses to panic. Her husband, Hal, is missing. He left. He won't pick up the phone. And Margaret's main concern is keeping the stairs dry. Her grown daughter, Catherine, is texting questions that Margaret is not answering. And it's kind of funny and unnerving at the same time. Before chapter 1 ends, we're also told 2 other bits. First, something awful lives in the basement and the door is boarded over. And second, the adult daughter, Catherine, is coming whether Margaret wants her to or not, which means the family version of events, the story Margaret tells herself about the house, cannot hold forever. As a reader, I got into this book, and after about 3 chapters, I was like, how is the author going to keep this up?
Right. I mean, it sounds really delightful. I'm like, I want to read this immediately.
Yeah. By that point in the book, we've already seen most of the monsters. But then the book kind of takes this turn into like the why of it all. What families hide and the stories we tell ourselves to survive, particularly in bad times. There's some mental illness in the mix and denial and love that looks, at least from the outside, like madness. It's still sometimes gleefully gross, but the heart of it sort of turns around and you're suddenly reading a book about a mother and a daughter and the long shadow cast by things that maybe you don't say out loud. And just when I was comfortable in that space, the book whips around again and lands a finale that is gruesome and satisfying. Publishers Weekly said this book is what would happen if P.G. Wodehouse had written the Amityville Horror. That's kind of perfect. I should mention that the author, Carissa Orlando, is a doctor who works in children's mental health. Her day job is improving access to care for kids and their families. In an interview, she described herself as an unsalvageably nerdy psychologist who has never met a horror movie so bad I didn't want to watch it. And you can feel her experience in Margaret's voice, the routines that look like denial from the outside, and the way people build elaborate systems to function, and everything that's buried under, I'm fine, this is fine. At the same time, the story never becomes a case study. It stays a novel, but the truthiness is right there. For audiobook people, this is a good one. The narrator, Kimberly Farr, does a great job. She's got the dry, motherly deadpan down. She is equally practical and unhinged. If you like humor in your horror, the kind of domestic comedy that happens when your walls are bleeding and you still want to make breakfast, if you want a haunted house that is clearly haunted with rules and consequences and a basement door you absolutely should not open, if you want a heroine who refuses to leave because the porch is perfect and the mortgage is paid and love sometimes looks like staying, this is a great pick. It's The September House from Carissa Orlando.
Book 3.
My next recommendation is Cackle by Rachel Harrison. This is the perfect book for people who don't like scary stories but want to get into the Halloween spirit. It's a cozy about witchy friendship in a small town in upstate New York. If the author's name sounds familiar, it's because I've talked about Rachel Harrison before. She is my favorite author to read during spooky season. Her specialty is weaving dark humor and girl power into traditional horror tropes. Her books are generally not too scary, although some of them do have more bite than others. Her werewolf story, Such Sharp Teeth, is a rom-com classic monster mashup. Black Sheep is a comedy horror about a girl named Vesper who learns her dad is even worse than she thought. So Thirsty is a sharp take on friendship and vampires. And she has a new one out this year called Play Nice. It's a blend of Amityville horror and one of those Hallmark movies about a city girl who comes back to her hometown.
I love her titles.
They're really fun.
Yeah.
She also has a short story collection called Bad Dolls that I thought was the creepiest, and I just love all of them. But If you're craving the whole pumpkin spice, flame-colored leaves, hot chocolate with marshmallows, fire in the fireplace kind of fall vibes, this is the book for you. As you might guess from the title, we are hanging out with witches. Our heroine, Annie, has just had her heart crushed. She's been dumped by her long-term boyfriend, Sam. They live in Manhattan, so it's very expensive.
Yeah.
And they continue to share their apartment while she figures out what to do with her life.
You're making a face.
I mean, breaking up and having to still live together is really terrible.
Yeah, it is.
Also, to give you a sense of just how lousy it is, Sam decided that the best arrangement for them was to alternate between the bed in the bedroom and the futon in the living room, so they take turns going back and forth. And on Annie's birthday, it's her turn to be on the futon. And when she gets home from a really unfun night out with an acquaintance, Sam has left her a single cupcake and a birthday card picturing a T-Rex in a party hat that says, "Hope your birthday is dynamite."
Well, that's not going well.
So she needs an affordable place to live, and she needs a change of scenery.
Yeah.
So she accepts a job teaching in a small town in upstate New York. And the town is the very ideal of picturesque small town. She can't believe it when she gets there. Her apartment is in a white house with flower boxes and a tidy green lawn. Main Street is lined with Victorian cast iron lampposts with hanging flower pots. The cheery shops that line the street are either straight out of Norman Rockwell or look like a gingerbread house transplanted from Europe. There's a pond and a retro train car diner and a stone church with a steeple. It's almost too perfect. Her first day teaching English at the high school is not good. Her students range from disinterested to openly hostile. So on her drive home from her first day, she stops at Simple Spirits, Wine, and Liquor. And that's where she meets Sophie, the beautiful, poised, somewhat inscrutable Sophie. Sophie has hair that cascades in shiny waves to her waist, almond-shaped hazel eyes, long black eyelashes, and eyebrows with steep arches. She's dressed in a long black silky dress.
Oh.
And somehow, the creaky floorboards don't creak when she walks over them. Her voice is like smoke.
Getting kind of a New England Morticia out of this.
We know immediately that she's a witch. Of course she is.
Yeah.
And Annie, distracted, sweaty, intimidated, and maybe a little smitten,
Yeah.
does not figure this out. Sophie takes one look at Annie and takes her on as a sort of project. She introduces Annie to the townsfolk. They go to the diner together for pancakes with strawberries and a side of bacon. She invites Annie to her house to bake a blackberry pie, a house that they get to, by the way, by walking through the woods past an old moss-covered stone well, a circle of lichen-covered headstones, and a crumbling hut with a thatched roof. All of which Annie just kind of takes in.
Sure.
And Sophie just dismisses with a shrug. No big deal. That's just some headstones. La la, come to my house.
I mean, you do have to ask yourself sometimes, is this haunted or is it just New England?
As Annie settles into this new life and her friendship with Sophie deepens, mysterious things begin to happen around her. There are some very entertaining hauntings that are like the scariness level of the movie Beetlejuice. They're very well described. Equal parts funny and disgusting. There's also an adorable sentient spider named Ralph, and homemade tonics and teas and candles that have some repercussions. The further Annie moves away from the old version of herself, the inner relationship, people-pleasing parts of herself, the more she questions who she is and what Sophie might be. A lot of the fun of this story is waiting for Annie to catch up to what we know.
It sounds like a coming of witch story.
It is a coming of age story. Rachel Harrison, one of my favorite things about her is that she's so good at dialogue. Her characters always sound like real people. The friends talk in shorthand and have shared backstories and are just in tune with each other in a way that people who actually know each other are. Sophie and Annie have heartfelt conversations about what it's like to be a woman and how we're supposed to feel about romance or the lack thereof. They spend hours watching reality TV together, drinking fancy coffees and baking. They make lemon cake and potatoes with cheese and caramel apples and shortbread and pizza.
That sounds really nice, though.
It is really nice.
Yeah.
And there's also some actual stakes. Annie and Sophie have some pretty intense conversations, all leading up to a really nice ending with a lot of hocus pocus along the way. I recommend you read this while nibbling on pumpkin cake or some caramel popcorn.
I think that's true for any book this season.
This is Cackle by Rachel Harrison.
This is book 4.
My second book is Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zheng by Kylie Lee Baker. So let's start here. This book is not for everybody. I cannot stress that enough. This is the darkest book we've ever talked about.
Wow, really?
I think so. But also that might be a strength here. It's brutal and gory, but it's also a remarkable story about grief and recovery from the perspective of an Asian woman in New York City during the pandemic.
Yeah, that sounds a little heavy.
Yeah. If that sounds like something you might read, though, it's an extraordinary book. The quick setup is this. A Chinese-American crime scene cleaner in pandemic-era NYC is haunted by her sister's death, hungry ghosts with some very specific demands, and the possibility that a serial killer is targeting women like her.
There is so much to unpack in that sentence.
Yes, there is. And this book does a really bang-up job of doing that.
Cool.
We start in April 2020 in the East Broadway subway station during that weird, quiet time where nobody knew what was going on, really. Two sisters, Cora and Delilah, are waiting for a train, and for just a minute, we get the quiet of lockdown and a little bit about the toilet paper shortage. And then a stranger walks by, and he says, "Bat Eater," and he shoves Delilah into an oncoming train.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And as a reader, you are not spared anything about how horrible that would be, both the physical act and its repercussions, and through the book, the ongoing grief and guilt and fear and anger. That moment is given its full weight. This is a book that shows you something terrible and then pulls up a chair and says, okay, let's be honest about how scary this would be. Chapter 2 skips ahead a few months. Cora has landed a job with a Chinatown dry cleaner that is pivoted during lockdown to crime scene cleanup. Cora doesn't mind the work. It gives her some control in a world that is not under control. She finds a strange peace in the protection of the hazmat suit. And it throws her together with two coworkers who will, whether she likes it or not, become a little crew. One talks too much, the other one hardly at all. And both of them know how to keep a secret. And together, this team is cleaning up a bathroom. A female Asian American doctor has died when they find a dead bat in the shower drain. And Cora starts counting how many of our recent jobs have involved Asian women. And that sets up the serial killer thread. That is one thread in the book. The other is that Cora's sister, Delilah, comes back. In Cora's family, the Hungry Ghost Festival is not just a date on the lunar calendar. There are rules about this kind of thing. You burn joss paper so your dead won't go without. You don't whistle at night. You don't leave your chopsticks upright in a bowl. And in this apartment with its sticky radiators and its bad corners, Delilah returns. And she does not come back alone. And this is all written with a lot of veracity. There's the ancient Chinese lore plays out against fluorescent lights in a way that is so creepy. It's sometimes funny. There's an aunt with strong ideas about how the dead should be treated. And then sometimes it isn't funny at all. The author, Kylie Lee Baker, does a fantastic job of playing these threads against one another. You've got this sort of splatter horror, but then there's also the practical work of cleaning it up. New York City feels predatory to Cora before and after there's a hunter in it. The grief comes back as it would in life, like sometimes unexpectedly, sometimes with the thought that the dead could have been a better sister, sometimes with anger. The ghosts feel like the embodiment of larger problems, misogyny and racism and failing institutions, without the book ever turning into a sermon. This is a possession story. What possesses you after a loss and what it takes to walk away from that and what never leaves. And the ending is amazing. I love Cora, the main character. She is abrasive and anxious and painfully self-aware. It all seems to happen inside with her. Baker lets her be contradictory. She doesn't believe, and yet she washes her hands twice with mechanic soap and organizes her life around invisible rules. She resists ritual until ritual is the only thing that makes sense. There's a running motif of cleaning, of surfaces and of memory and of guilt. And the book keeps looking at that. And her relationships are great. The coworkers become a trio that I rooted for. There's an aunt who weaponizes dumplings and ghost etiquette. And the sister bond refuses to collapse. It just gets richer as the novel moves along. Again, not for everybody. This book has real-world violence, especially against Asian women, graphic, on-page gore, and frank depictions of trauma. That said, it's also, maybe surprisingly, a book about care, the ways we try to clean what can't be clean, the found families we build, the stubbornness of hope in a city that sometimes feels like it will eat you. If you like what I've been talking about, put this at the top of your stack. It is so good. I tore through it. This is Bad Eater and Other Names for Cora Zhang by Kylie Lee Baker.
Here's book 5.
My final recommendation is Diavola by Jennifer Thorne.
Oh, you love this book.
Oh, so much. This is my favorite ghost story ever.
Wow.
The horrors it explores are twofold: legitimately unscary supernatural experiences and simmering, seething, dysfunctional family drama.
I feel like we started this episode with like happy kind of ghost stories and we just walked straight downhill.
I mean, ghost stories at their heart really are sad.
Yeah.
And representations of trauma and loss. So let's get into it.
Yep.
I mean, that's one of the best things about horror is it gives you a way to talk about horrific things.
Yeah. One of the things that really resonated for me about Bad Eater was how much I could relate to the COVID terror.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's right there. And it was nice to sort of be able to walk through it with somebody else for a little while. Maybe I brought the room down.
Way down. Every year, the Pace family takes a group trip together. This year, it's a 9-day vacation in a luxury rental villa in Tuscany, the 600-year-old Villa Taccola. It's exactly what you'd want in an Italian vacation home. Warm brown stone, terracotta roof tiles, a Renaissance tower to add a little romance, and in the back garden, a sparkling blue pool.
Sounds lovely.
Mm-hmm. Our 30-something heroine, Anna, is an artist, and she has complicated feelings about this trip. On one hand, a villa outside the tiny town of Montepersto.
Right. On one hand, everything you just said.
Yeah, she can practice Italian. She can draw the beautiful things she sees around her. On the other hand, her family.
Mm.
Her twin brother, Benny, who is usually her only ally, is bringing his new boyfriend this time.
Mm.
Her sister, who is always annoying, will be accompanied by her 2 daughters and her very bland husband. And then there's Dad, super checked out, and Mom, chilly and judgmental. The first lines of the book tell you exactly what you need to know about Anna and her relationship to her family. Anna kicked off the annual Pace family vacation with a lie. It was the only smart move, and she didn't feel the least bit guilty about it. So everyone else is arriving on Friday, but Anna has invented a client meeting that will keep her busy until Saturday. And what she really does is fly into Florence alone on Thursday. She gets there 2 days early to drink wine on the hotel balcony and stroll the sun-drenched streets and visit the Uffizi Gallery.
This sounds like a solid strategy to me.
It's pretty smart.
Build yourself a little me time before you descend into the family quagmire.
Mm-hmm. So she's done all of that. And on her Uber ride from the train station to the villa, we get the first little tickle of something sinister. The mustachioed driver says to her, "You sure you want to go to Villa Tacola? I could take you anywhere else."
Seems bad.
So she goes to the villa.
Yep.
She walks into a family reunion already in progress. Everyone is around the backyard pool. The vibe does nothing to alleviate the new dark mood. Anna is greeted with cheek air kisses, and her sister makes sharp comments about how Anna doesn't have children, which makes it sound both like a luxury and a character flaw at the same time. The twin brother and the new boyfriend have absconded off to Pisa, which gives the rest of the family liberty to mock the new boyfriend because he informed them he's Christopher, not Chris. Full name always Christopher. So they're being all catty and judgy and unwelcome. And you know this is just a replay of the kind of interactions they've had for decades.
Yeah.
As Anna goes into the house to change into her bathing suit, she hears her mom say, "This is so nice. Everybody together." Yeah. So dinner that night is no better. The twin and the boyfriend have returned. The sister insists on cooking while radiating the air of the put upon. The book says, Nicole had cooked an enormous pot of pasta with fresh ingredients from the local outdoor market and still somehow made it taste like an American TV dinner.
Oh, gee.
Yeah. The new boyfriend, Christopher Never Chris, announces that he's keto and will not be breaking his carb fast. Italy be damned. And they all give Anna a hard time for her perfect Italian pronunciation, as though her ability to speak Italian is somehow an insult to them.
Right.
It's all cringy and perfect. And it's replayed, same song, different tune, throughout the entire trip.
Where do we get to the ghost part?
Right now. That was perfectly timed. The haunting starts with just a little prickle of apprehension. The caretaker has warned them to never enter the villa's tower.
Which, of course, we're going to go into.
And he says this despite giving them an ornate key to the door.
Oh, that's mixed messages.
Chekhov's key.
Yeah.
One of the first nights, Anna hears rustling outside, and she sneaks out and she spies on a group of men from the village pouring a perimeter of salt around the villa. Signed, you maybe want to go stay at a hotel.
I was going to say, for me, that would be out. I'm done.
She has ghostly visions, but convinces herself they're just dreams.
Okay.
This is all in like the first 36 hours.
Yeah.
Then it escalates. Doors slam on their own. Furniture rearranges itself. The bookshelves are emptied. The books are stacked in neat piles on the floor. Wine bottles smash on the kitchen tile. And now it's not just Anna having these experiences. It's starting to spread to other members of the household. To tell you any more about the plot it would be unkind, because everyone reading this book deserves to experience it the way it unravels.
Not fair to the book.
But I will say that Jennifer Thorne is a fantastic writer. And for her sake, I hope she didn't come by her deep understanding of messed up families through personal experience. The words she puts in the mouths of her characters are pitch perfect. If you have a difficult relation and they know just the thing to say to you to make you feel your worst, you will relate to Anna's experience with her family. The author also makes the ephemeral hauntings feel tangible. Even when the characters are experiencing things that rationally cannot happen, I could see the events very clearly in my imagination. She puts words to the impossible so that you can see it. And she also somehow pulls off jump scares on the page. Like, how?
Yeah.
It was amazing.
That's a good trick.
And also scary.
Yeah.
It's scary. This also might sound like a weird thing to say about a horror story, but her descriptions of Italy, the countryside, the village restaurant, a winery, the weather are so evocative and beautifully written. If it wasn't a scary story, it would be an advertisement for going to Tuscany. Here, have a nice side of travelogue while I scare the pans off of you. This is a propulsive ghost story and a love letter to all the black sheep and scapegoats out there. If you enjoy a shiver up the back of your neck and are here for harrowing family drama, you will love this book. It's Diavola by Jennifer Thorne.
Those are 5 books we love that celebrate the spirit of Halloween. If you've got a spooky book you want to talk about, come tell us on Patreon.
Please, I'm always looking for more books to add to my library.
After every episode, a bunch of curious readers and travelers just like you gather to share what we missed and to tell a few stories of their own. You can join us for just $3 a month, and that'll help us keep this journey going. We'd love to have you along for the adventure.
Also, right now we have an annual membership, so you can pay once and skate for the rest of the year. It's also a pretty good deal. You get 20% off, which comes to $57.60 for the year. But maybe even more exciting than the discounted price is that we now have an epic spreadsheet with every book we've talked about on the show, along with a genre, a brief description of the book, all of the destinations it covers, because some of the books are both a manor house story and a Scotland story.
Right.
So the spreadsheet has all of the multiple tags so you can cross-reference and keep very detailed notes, or enjoy my very detailed notes because I've done it for you. All current members and new members get a download of that spreadsheet, and we'll be updating it as we add new episodes to our archive.
Come by and check out our show notes at strongsenseofplace.com. We've got Broadway dancers doing the Thriller zombie dance on 6th Avenue. We'll point you to some of the best places in the world to celebrate Halloween.
I've got a video of the York ghosts in the garden, and we have photos of the ghosts we acquired at the York Ghost Merchants. They are so cute.
So I should mention before we get out, as you listen to this, we are in Wales.
We are at the first Readers Weekend at Trevor Hall. We're in a manor house as you listen to this.
But we remain committed to spooky season. So next week, we're going to drop the Library of Lost Time, where Mel talks about Gothic literature. And then the week after that, we're going to rerun our Halloween episode,
which has some really good scary books and a couple of titles for people who don't want to be scared.
Yeah.
Plus the rules about how you sell a haunted house.
And then after that, we'll be back with a new episode, which brings me to, Mel, where are we headed next?
We're going to be sharing what we learned on our trip. We're going to Wales.
Yeah, we'll tell you all about it. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Hi there, Fred Greenhalgh here, director of audio dramas like DC High Volume Batman and Star Trek Con. However, my one true love remains all things spooky, and I'm excited to say there's a new season of my horror podcast, Undertow. This season is called Familiar Haunts, standalone horror tales that reveal how the past is never truly gone, and humanity may be the most ruthless monster of them all. Here's a sample from the first episode about a man who returns to the house he grew up in after receiving a creepy voicemail from his mother. Let's hear it, shall we?
Mike, help me. I'm not alone in here. I'm not alone. She's walking. She's walking toward me.
Hear the rest by listening to Familiar Haunts, available on Undertow. Subscribe to Undertow wherever you get your podcasts, such as the app you're listening to me right now. In addition to the weekly releases of Familiar Haunts, we have 11 previous seasons with everything from werewolf tales to underwater monsters and creepy reincarnated twins. So get your spooky fix by subscribing to Undertow.